Welcome to the Life Self-Mastery Podcast, where we bring in entrepreneurs who have created online businesses and improved their lifestyles. Here's your host, Rohit Malhotra.
Hi everyone, I'm Rohit from lifestylemastery.com, and today I'm excited to have Vikram Rangnekar, who's the founder of MOV North, who's been ex-founder and has worked with companies like LinkedIn. Vikram has done his bachelor's from University of Delaware. Welcome to the show, Vikram.
Hi Rohit, thanks for having me.
Yeah, so Vikram, you have a fascinating journey. You've lived in Singapore, you lived in Silicon Valley, and now you live in Toronto. So what took you from India to Singapore to Silicon Valley and now to Toronto in Canada?
Well, I mean, I think at some level it was partly to have a great adventure. So I always enjoy doing things differently. So I think partly it was that, and partly it was guided by visa regulations. After college, I wanted to do my own startup, and I couldn't do that in the US. So Singapore actually was very receptive. They gave us startup visas and invited us over. So that was partly my reason for going to Singapore. Going back to California was when we got a chance to work with LinkedIn. My startup back then in Singapore was called Socialwalk, and we were winners of this contest in Silicon Valley called TechCrunch. It's called TechCrunch 50 back then. It's been renamed now. I think it's called just TechCrunch Disrupt now. So when we won that contest, LinkedIn kind of got interested in what we were building and asked, and invited us to kind of join them and be part of their mission. So that was my chance to go back to the US, to Silicon Valley and work with LinkedIn. So that's kind of how I got, that's that part of the story. And post that, after 6 years with LinkedIn, I was looking for something new. I wanted to go back to my startup roots and do, kind of take some time out, figure out what I want to do and what kind of, startup ideas that I might want to, dedicate myself to. And I couldn't do that in the US because the terms of the work visa H-1B don't let you do that. Additionally, I couldn't see what the future held for me there because the green card, the H-1B to green card track for people born in India is very hazy. It's potentially could take 10 years or 20 years, no one knows. So I started looking around, trying to figure out what other places might be exciting for me to move to and try to build a startup in. And I kind of settled on Toronto in Canada. And I got a permanent residency there. So I ended up moving and building my startup.
So that's quite an interesting journey. You've also built companies like Voiceroute and Webmatter. So have you gone through an acquisition with these companies, or are there lifestyle businesses that you've run?
So Voiceroute surprisingly was our first company. It was in the VoIP space, and so Voiceroute actually transitioned into Socialwalk. That's a long story. It was it was a part of the tech. We actually had customers. The Singapore government was our customer, and we were selling all over the world. But, kind of selling this VoIP technology was not as exciting as being, part of the web. The web was really growing and there's all kinds of exciting things happening on the web. And we were more, locally hosted per se. So we actually transitioned, and one feature of our Voiceroute product actually grew and became our next startup, Socialwalk. Socialwalk is like a enterprise collaboration platform. So if you were a Google Apps user, you could basically share Google Calendar events, Google documents. It was like a feed, a collaboration environment built for people on Google Apps. And the idea for that kind of spawned out of this little feature we had in our previous Voiceroute product, where we let people do a little bit of collaboration locally. So that's not been an acquisition. Voiceroute was not an acquisition, but it kind of transitioned. And then Socialwalk actually it was kind of an acqui-hire where LinkedIn offered us to come and join them. So that's that.
Got it. And you would also build Webmatter. Is this something you're still pursuing?
So when I moved to Toronto, I was experimenting with a few ideas, and I was trying to see, where my interests lie, and where does the market really get excited about? Because I was just out of 6 years at LinkedIn and taking some time out to kind of do this exploring. So Webmatter was the first idea I was kind of working on. It was a way for people to tie APIs together. The story of Webmatter is that it still has customers, so it is kind of a side thing, and I want to come back and grow it. I've just been sidetracked by MOV North, but you won't know. But there are a couple other projects I also worked with on while I was working on Webmatter. There's a site called 42 Markets. It's actually a cryptocurrency a pricing engine. So it kind of goes out there, talks to many crypto exchanges. And this was, honestly, I wouldn't say I'm some like crypto person who's really into crypto, but I was trying to figure it out. There was a lot of hype. The space was really growing. And I was trying to understand, more about it. And like writing code is my way to understand these things. So I built this engine to kind of figure out how a price comes about. How do people know BTC costs this much, right? So you get the data from all these exchanges, you do some math on it based on the volume of trades on those exchanges, and then you figure out what the price is, right? So it's a pretty interesting site. It also got me to play with some new technologies. So 42markets.com. It gets a substantial amount of traffic, and I have not done anything with it recently, but I have some ideas for it, hopefully.
Got it. So interesting. I want to talk about MOV North. I happen to see one of your posts. I think was shared by a colleague of mine. But on MOV North, you talk about why Canada can be the next big tech ecosystem. So can you talk a little bit about it and why you bullish about Toronto and Canada as the next big tech ecosystem?
So, very honestly, I don't think Canada ever factored in my life plans. Silicon Valley, yes. Canada, I'd never specifically thought about it. Yes, there are many tech centers in the world, and I probably didn't think about them either, because Silicon Valley, end of the day, is such a big, attractive place. And let me before I kind of transition to Canada, let me just say that Silicon Valley is still number one, and it is awesome. And my experience there, I will not I will never discount that. And I think it's the best place to build a network, and learn a ton about the software space. But at the end of my 6 years there, I was looking for freedom. Basically, I wanted to be able to build what I wanted, take time off if I wanted, just, do whatever I wanted. And the H-1B work visa that was in the US, which doesn't allow for that. There are some restrictions. You have to maintain a job, and you can't just do your own startup. Which is, I believe is fine for a while, but after a while, I couldn't see a way out of it. The traditional way out of it is to get a green card, which, I had filled all the paperwork for, but I couldn't see the green card actually arriving for, God knows when. So it could be, honestly, it's based on country of birth. So me being born in India, the timing to get a green card, the wait period to get a green card is now 10, 15 plus years, maybe even 20. So that basically is my entire productive adult lifetime. So that doesn't make any sense. So at that point, I decided to look around and see what else is out there. Like I mentioned before, this is not my first time leaving the US. I did my college in the US too, and I left the US for Singapore to build my first startup. So maybe in that sense, I was more open to it. Going back to Singapore was obviously on the cards. I had friends who had moved to Berlin, so I had heard some good stuff about Germany. But all of that seemed very far away, honestly. I was very comfortable in North America. I was used to it. My kids had grown up there. So and Canada is kind of like just came on my radar because I had some common friends who have built successful companies in Toronto. tech companies. So after kind of talking to them more, visiting the city in the summer and all of that, we started to really like it. I mean, Toronto is, one friend of mine said this about Toronto. He's like, Toronto is the best kept secret in North America. And I kind of believe it because most people don't know enough about it. They think it's cold and stuff. Yes, it is. But in the summer, it's beautiful. In the fall, it's beautiful. It's a great place to raise a family. It's clean. It's safe. It's like a concentrated city. So much going on there. You know, museums, parks. Everyone's always out and about. It's really ideal for me. You know, I live in a neighborhood that's very close to downtown, but it's still like a neighborhood with houses. Even in San Francisco, technically, I could never do that because, you know, having a family in San Francisco is prohibitively expensive. You know, okay. So in that sense, you know, Toronto worked for me, and considering the fact that I wanted to do my own startup, you know, I had the freedom because I got a Canadian PR, so I could technically do whatever I wanted. I spent some time in Canada working for a tech company here called Influtive. I was leading product for them for a while, some of their product efforts. And then at some point I decided, you know what, I should like take some time out and explore some startup options. And then, you know, I kind of quit and started working on a couple of projects, which finally ended up with MOV North. But yeah.
Got it. And so is the PR process still simple for Canada, or can you give still more insight about some other opportunities in Canada for tech jobs?
So one thing I was really surprised about is actually the immigration process. How I would say how easy and transparent it is. So unlike most of the immigration processes that I've looked at, which are very black box, you need like a lawyer who'd write letters and these things, and then a decision comes and you don't know quite why it came. The Canadian process is based on points, and it's basically if you have enough points, you get points for education and and your experience and language skills, and then every year, multiple times a year, they draw a lot based on a cutoff that they've decided. And if you make it over that cutoff, then you're basically invited to apply for PR, which basically means you submit your documents. And if all your documents and everything are in order, and all the points you claimed are proven, you basically get your PR. So it's very, and all this information in terms of what the cutoff is, who got it, everything is public, everything's online. It's on their website, plus the whole process of applying for it is online. So, when you submit documents, everything, you just upload them. There's a portal to do it. So, I found that quite refreshing. So, and it took me like 6 months, which was, very cool as compared to like waiting for, 10 years to get a green card. So, and I know, many people who are now in the process of moving and who've been very successful at getting the PR. I'd say this, yes, not everyone makes that point cutoff. Even with years of experience and stuff, it's possible, for whatever reason, and the person may be very good. In that case, if you're in tech, then getting a job in Canada is the other way that you can actually move here and then potentially apply for PR later. Outside of tech, I don't have much experience because that's not my area. Also, there are so many, obviously each space has its own hiring needs and stuff. But in terms of tech, there is a huge demand. And if you are like a developer, you are a product manager, designer, there's a chance that a Canadian company will want you and be happy to, figure out whatever visa is needed to bring you over. And getting that is, again, not very hard for those companies. So, potentially you could, from the time you hire to move here within a few months. And that honestly is what a lot of people have. That's my current startup. It's called MOV North. It's a platform to help people from all over the world who are, developers and designers and product managers, people working in tech, to connect with Canadian companies. because that's the problem I actually discovered. I discovered that Canadian companies want these people, and a lot of the tech workforce across the world is interested in moving to Canada, but they don't know how to find each other. So that's really what MOV North does. It's like the place where, if you go and create a profile, a company in Canada will find you, because that's where they're looking.
Got it. And do you are there also business roles or operation roles in tech companies, or are you purely looking at product managers or designers who connect to the tech side of the work?
Currently, it's not operational. It is, I'd say it is software developers is number one.
Okay.
There would be product managers. For every 10 developers, you need one product manager. So obviously the roles are fewer. And also product managers and, a lot of the other roles, they tend to, I guess, prefer people with North America experience. But a lot of companies, and if you have the experience, maybe working for a big tech company in India or something, they would definitely be interested. So in that order, it would be developers first, and then product managers and designers. But outside of that, MOV North is not focused on anything outside of that. And I'm not saying it's not possible, but I'd say it would be harder.
Makes sense. So I've been reading a lot about Canada and how they've opened up. And if you look at Ethereum and you look at machine learning and a lot of other newer opportunities, it looks like Canada is like the hotbed, because a lot of investments are getting into blockchain and AI machine learning companies. Mm-hmm. So what is your take on that? Why has suddenly that sort of opportunities have come up in Canada? Is because of Trump, the President Trump coming into becoming president in US, or is it something which is already being there in Canada for newer opportunities like blockchain and AI?
So that's a great question. So honestly, I don't think the U.S. administration has anything to do with the answer to that question. Ethereum, for example, was founded by Vitalik, that everyone knows, and Vitalik was a student here in Toronto. I think University of Toronto, University of Waterloo. My bad. So University of Waterloo is considered the MIT of Canada. It's a great school. It's not very far from Toronto. It's in Kitchener, Waterloo, which is about an hour or so out. Recently they had one of the largest Ethereum hackathons that happened there. I went for it. It was great. Vitalik was there. So were so many other, distributed, blockchain technology people, including things like Filecoin and all of those guys. It was fantastic. I love the energy there. And I'd say that because of how some of these initial sparks did happen here, some of the top Bitcoin developers are also based in Canada. Partly I guess because the education system here doesn't is a little different, right? I mean, kids here they don't have to take on debt to actually go to college. So when you're in college, you can, take out time to build interesting things, explore interesting ideas. Again, this is my theory, it could be completely wrong, but I feel that if I was in college without, in the US, I would potentially be taking on student loans, and there would be a lot of money, that's kind of hanging over me that I need to kind of pay back. And that causes me to maybe focus more on college and, remove all distractions or perceived distractions from my life. But, in Canada, it's not the case. Most students don't take on debt to go to college. It's you can go to the best college and not pay a lot. So that basically means people also spend their college hours, doing interesting things, doing work on the side, projects, potentially, which is, I would say is, far more valuable in the current economy than even the college. So I guess out of this kind of freedom. Vitalik himself traveled the world during college to talk to people in the blockchain space and after like years, he actually started working on Ethereum. Potentially it's something to do even with regulations where, Canada regulations are a little more relaxed in terms of, trying out these things.
Interesting.
In terms of AI, it's very different. AI actually was AI research was funded by Canadian government continued to fund AI research here far after the rest of the world kind of shut it down. So it was considered this, kind of this way to build AI systems using these deep nets, neural networks were discounted as this is not going to work. The reason it couldn't work back then because there wasn't the computing capability nor the amount of data that's available today. So the world was just waiting for that to happen. And Canada at the same time kept investing in this. So Professor Geoffrey Hinton of the University of Toronto is considered the father of deep neural nets. And Lee Yan Kun of University of Montreal, who did some of the early work again in and the frameworks to build these kind of deep nets. So all of these guys, these people who are considered the godfathers of AI, kept working on this stuff in Canada, and they actually discovered it, and in some sense, sparked off that entire thing in Canada. And today, they're Google and Facebook and Uber have all set up AI labs here. Montreal and Toronto being the number 1 and 2 places for a lot of this research. And surprisingly, University of Alberta was instrumental in a new kind of AI research called reinforcement learning, which is, again, people are calling it cutting edge stuff. So that's kind of what happened, and now companies have stepped in, and it's snowballed, and Canada is, I think, dominating AI research. I know a few people from India, ex-IIT people who have actually moved to colleges in Montreal and Toronto to continue, do their PhDs in AI instead of going anywhere else. That's also current trend that's happening. So.
Very interesting. So, so I want to talk about MOV North, and what is your main way of? You were earlier charging for the community, but now you made it open. So how do you? What is your main way of making money from MOV North?
Yeah, another great question. Any project needs to be sustainable. So money kind of factors in there. So what happened is when I launched MOV North, it was not even, I didn't even think startup. I didn't think anything. I thought blog to help people, understand Canada, learn more about it. I know lots of people in the US are stuck on this, friends of mine. So, and it kind of grew and grew and grew. And what ends up happening is a lot of people start reaching out about, wanting to connect and talk and have questions. And that's kind of why I had put up a community initially, like a closed community. And because I didn't want people to just kind of overrun the community, there was kind of like a subscription model. But going forward, I realized that there are now the community has grown substantially. There are thousands of great questions, tons of answers to anything you'd want to know about Canada, moving here, jobs, and everything. That I think is more valuable open. That as things change in the US, there are more people looking to kind of understand things about Canada, and it's only fair this information be available to everyone. So the community is completely free. It's open. You can go sign up. There's the link on the website. You can go and use that. How I make money is really the higher product. So what happened actually is that companies started reaching out to me and said, hey, you have this site, you get so much press. There's I'm sure a lot of people are coming to you, people in tech, and saying, how do we work in Canada? And we're looking to hire those people. And we don't know how to find them. We don't know where to go and search for, find someone who wants to work in Canada. So can you forward some of these, candidates our way, and we'll love to talk to them. So that is what I heard from the companies, companies in Canada. And at the same time, people started reaching out to me, people from all over the world, including India and the US, H-1Bs and stuff, saying, hey, if we want to talk to Canadian companies, we don't know how to do this. We try to reach out to them. We, try to contact their hiring teams, and they don't respond. And It's because, traditionally Canada has not done international hiring for many things. And it also was a harder process. Now things have changed. There's a new fast work visa that can, help companies bring people in within like a month or two. So a lot of these things are changing, but the hiring teams are still not equipped to kind of like find this talent or connect with them. So this is kind of why MOV North Hire happened. So it's a platform where, anyone out there, any tech person working in tech, engineer, developer, whatever, he can sign up and create a profile. And what we do is Canadian companies put up their requirements on the platform, and our software matches the two. So if you match, say, you asked me about cryptocurrency. So there is Canada has a really successful crypto exchange called CoinSquare. It is like the Coinbase of Canada. And they are hiring on MOV North. So they're looking for front-end developers. So if you have a profile, very likely, you'd get matched, and you could then, and then if they like what they see, they would definitely want to reach out and hire you and bring you over to Canada to work on, CoinSquare. Or Shopify. Shopify is one of Canada's largest web success stories. It's an IPO company with a great, tech culture. They're looking for a whole suite of developers on MOV North. Or there's Ample Organics, which is another interesting one. It's the cannabis industry is now getting legalized in Canada.
Yes.
And Ample Organics is a software. It's like the Square for weed. I guess it's like tracks everything from end to end. And if you want to create your own dispensary, it's the legal. You'll make sure you're compliant and all your data is tracked, all your payments are handled properly. It's a cloud-based software platform to do that. So they're hiring, and I expect them to really grow. I mean, it's an exciting thing that's happening in Canada.
Very interesting.
So, yeah. These companies are the ones actually paying to access this talent. So, I urge anyone listening to go ahead and create a profile, and, my mission is to try to get you to Canada. So.
Interesting. So do you also help job seekers create, the right sort of resume or profile for Indian developers or European developers, or is it just about connecting to other software companies?
We don't help you create your own resume. I would expect experienced developers to be able to handle that. And but we do have a profile format that you have to fill up. It is like a tag-based format where you put in the skills you have, you put in the interest things that you would like to work on, a short description, links to your LinkedIn and GitHub profiles. Enough information to make yourself found if someone's looking, and when they look to kind of understand what you're about. And since everyone who wants to create a profile has to keep in mind that remember, these are hiring engineers, hiring managers trying to find someone across the world. The more information that you give him is valuable, because it's a risky bet. So they like to have a lot of information before they decide to contact someone. And there are all these things that we kind of help them with. So it's software driven. So we try to automate things. We have our own machine learning, or I wouldn't call it AI, but we have machine learning models that help figure out things about candidates and do the matching.
Interesting. So, Vikram, you got a lot of press about MOV North, and now you're taking it full time. So, what is the way ahead for MOV North? Are you going to keep it as a SaaS, enterprise SaaS company, connecting developers, or or do you want to make it a ed tech company? What are your thoughts, and what is your vision about MOV North?
So MOV North is a bootstrapped company, so it's not VC funded or anything. And so that lets us and so it needs a little bit of passion and actual something that I really care about to actually continue doing this. And honestly, when I see a good developer, get a great job and, get a chance to live and work in a place he would, love, is really fulfilling. I mean, honestly, I didn't think it was. I never started off thinking that, helping people get jobs is my life's mission or anything. But I find it very fulfilling. It's awesome to see, software take people around the world, because I truly believe that. Like, my software skills are why I get to travel the world and do interesting things. I believe it's like one of the greatest skill that everyone should continue to develop on, because the world is turning into software. So that is kind of my guiding force. And even in our within the company, our metric that we track really is people hired. That's like the highest metric beyond everything else. So and we optimize for that. This is like MOV North is essentially going to be very simple. It's a platform to try to connect great tech talent with Canadian companies. And I don't see that changing in the near future. Yes, we've got some interest from other countries, companies in other countries saying, hey, would these guys like to come to France or Germany? But we've tried to focus and not at the moment. Also, there are certain, I think, other hurdles that the companies reaching out don't realize in terms of immigration and other issues. So, Canada is really focused on trying to build its workforce and focused on immigration, and is a great place to live. If you're an English-speaking person, it's beautiful and clean, and there's so much to explore from Vancouver to Toronto. So I think there's enough room for a lot of great talent. So that's primarily our focus, and getting more companies on the platform. Hiring is my day job. Honestly, it's like. That's all I do all day. I'm reaching out to companies and saying, hey, we have this pool of people, and would you, and we think you need international tech talent. I think you should be on here. So.
Got it. And do you have any final advice for developers who are looking to move to Canada about, are there any specific skill sets they need to develop, or, sometimes it's a big courageous move to a different country. I mean, you've done it a couple of times, but any advice on that front?
So I'll say that Canada, honestly, is a very easy. Just to focus first on Canada, I'd say Canada is a very easy place for you to live in. So most people are pretty friendly. It's very diverse. So everyone's familiar with every nationality. So it's nothing is a surprise. Even from even from quality of life aspect, it's really great here. You obviously have a lot of choices. You can be in Toronto, which is a little colder. You can move to Vancouver, which is I guess more rainy but less colder. The cold is not. That's again another question I get from people. Like, is the cold a big issue? It's not. You get a good jacket and you don't even realize it. And there are people all out and about in the cold, even during winter. Outside of that, in terms of tech skills, I think what I've seen companies are looking for is front-end developers, back-end developers, data scientists, when I say front-end, I meant things like, newer technology stacks like React, JS, Angular. On the back-end, they would look for things like Go, Ruby on Rails, Clojure, Java, and I like this is the largest chunk of tech hiring. For example, CoinSquare, I know, is the cryptocurrency startup is looking for Node.js developers. They're looking for people familiar with building in the cloud, AWS, Google Cloud, Azure. There are companies like there are some companies on our platform they're looking for more functional programmers who understand things like Clojure, and there's more I guess more like I don't know, like more like focused on functional stuff. It's less mainstream. Yeah, that's the best way to put it. Less mainstream technology stacks. So if this is kind of your skill sets, and I see this being more and more, even mobile. I mean, iOS, Android, that's big too. So it's not too much of a surprise. It's these popular technology stacks. It's really on how good you are within those stacks. And what I would say, if you have a body of work, present that. Be focused. I've seen people having resumes that are a little confusing, where they try to highlight the fact they want to be a product manager, but also show their developer experience. I would say just pick one. Don't show multiple skill sets in one resume. And focus on and keep it short. So keep it on what you think you're the strongest at. Fill it with examples. If there are projects you worked on, write about those. If you have open source code, that's fantastic. Link to that. And that's, I think that's all. Yeah.
Got it. So let's quickly do the top three. What's your favorite business book?
Favorite business book? Good question. Actually, I like the Peter Thiel book, 0 to 1.
Yeah, that's a good one. And if you could go back in time when you started, your business, when you start building your businesses, what is the one thing you would have focused on?
I would focus. Actually, that's a great question, and I would focus on releasing earlier. I would focus on. This is very hard for me because I'm a bit of a perfectionist, so it literally requires me fighting my own self. But I would want to release things that are half broken. No, I wouldn't say half broken, but not like I would trim my vision down for my first release. And I would, when I have something in mind, I would sit down and think about how I can get this out faster with doing less work on it. Like how can I not code this? How can I somehow put things together but not really code it? So if some things are taking me a month to release, I would really focus on how can I get this out in a week? Or if something's going to take me a week to get out, I would think, how can I get it out in a day? Really, that is my focus. I believe that, and I've made this mistake myself numerous times. I never learn. I think most importantly, get something out and get people looking at it. Get feedback as fast as possible, negative, positive. Negative, is the most helpful. And this is, I have noticed it's hard for not just me, but it's hard for everyone. But it's the most rewarding.
Got it. And what's your favorite online tools, for example, Gmail or Slack?
I'm not a Slack person as much. I find that, I find it a little overwhelming. My favorite online tool would be, I'd say I like Gmail, but, I'm on Twitter a lot. So I like Twitter, I'd say Twitter maybe. And LinkedIn. I use LinkedIn a lot for work. So sorry, I know you asked for one, but.
No, that's okay. Yeah. So, and what are the best way people can reach out to you and know more about MOV North?
They can email me. I'm at Vikram at movenorth.com, and it's MOV North. It's not E. It's just MOVnorth.com.
Got it. So, Vikram, thanks a lot for coming on to the show. I really enjoyed speaking to you.
Rohit, it was great. I enjoyed speaking to you too. Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to the Life Self-Mastery podcast, where we teach you how to start and grow your online business. For more information, visit Rohit's blog at www.lifeselfmastery.com.